I'm Whitney Belker, and welcome to Miami's Global Connection, a show sponsored by the United Nations Association of Greater Miami. Joining me today is Dr. Alan Carsurd, the Executive Director of the Global Entrepreneurship Center at Florida International University. Today we will discuss entrepreneurship and its impact on South Florida and international business. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Whitney, for having me.
Yeah, so tell me about what is the Global Entrepreneurship Program at FIU?
The Global Entrepreneurship Center at FIU is a campus-wide initiative that has been funded by the Hewing, Mary and Kaufman Foundation of Kansas City. We've been very lucky at FIU in December of this last year, to receive a $3 million gift from the Kaufman Foundation, one of 8 campuses in the United States, which includes schools like Carnegie Mellon and some others.
So that kind of puts FIU out on the map.
It puts us on the map. We were very, very pleased with that particular award, because what it does, it allows us to develop a very unique program that impacts all students at FIU. So the center actually will outreach to all 36,000 students on the FIU campus.
Well, that sounds like a tremendous initiative. What is the mission of the Global Entrepreneurship Program?
It's to put entrepreneurship into every activity on campus and into every major, so that you can be an engineering student and still be an entrepreneur. You can be an artist and be an entrepreneur. You can be a lawyer and learn to start your own practice. So we see entrepreneurship is kind of an attitude toward life, that you can do things beyond the resources you control, but it's also to teach people how do you look for opportunities so that you can become not just self-employed, but how to really make an impact with your ideas and change the environment, change technology.
I love it.
We hope so.
So give me, what is your definition of entrepreneurship?
It's really the pursuit of opportunities beyond the resources you currently control. And I kind of use this center as an example. When I came from UCLA a little less than 2 years ago, the whole notion was to make this center start up and be something in the community. In fact, Miami was the only major city in the United States without an academic center of entrepreneurship in one of its universities. Now we certainly have changed that, and we've done it in a very, very short period of time. And everybody kept saying, Alan, you'll never get the kind of money you've managed to raise. The $3 million from Kaufman was just the start of the process.
So are you also raising money from local businesses and individuals?
We will be making an announcement very, very shortly of a very prominent Cuban-American member of the business community who's going to be making an announcement about a major endowment gift to the university.
Well, that sounds exciting. Anything you can share with us now?
Not yet, but I'm hoping that there'll be lots of these announcements coming out. The one announcement I can make is that we've just hired Paul Reynolds, who is the New Tech chair, the New Tech Prize winner from Sweden, was just hired away from Babson College and London Business School to join our faculty. So now we have the preeminent scholar in entrepreneurship in the world is now at FIU. So big changes at FIU.
Well, that sounds very interesting. So you mentioned there are other 8 universities that also received a grant from the Kaufman Center. You mentioned Carnegie Mellon.
Well, I mean,
who are the other?
It's University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Wake Forest, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. We beat out people like Berkeley and UCLA and a number of others. So it was a very stiff competition. There were over 300 schools that had applied for the multi-million-dollar gifts. Okay,
so this $3 million grant, what is it supposed to be used for? And is this something that local entrepreneurs might have an opportunity to tap into?
Well, I remember the first call after the announcement was made from a local Catholic priest who asked if I'd like to make a donation to the church. I wish we could say that that's what it was for. It really is seed capital to get various programs up. The center has a number of institutes attached to it. We're working with family businesses, which, as you know, make up the bulk of family firms here in South Florida. We're doing a Community Innovations Institute to try to help not-for-profits learn to be self-sustaining. My line is, we all want a symphony orchestra that manages to stick around. We're working on a project with technology innovation, so we have an institute to try to create new technologies, because this city is really very much dependent upon a couple of industrial sectors. And we think it's important that Miami expand in that particular operation. So using the resources of a research university like FIU to try to create some new technologies and some new businesses that can come out. Obviously, one of the areas we're working in is biomedical engineering, because that's very much a strength at FIU. But we'll also be doing some stuff in environmental sciences. We're working on an incubator program right now, which will be possibly an outreach to the local business communities, where we'll be trying to help nurse some of these new technology companies up.
Well, that sounds very interesting. You mentioned that there are just a couple of industry sectors that Miami is standing out for. What would you identify as those?
It's heavily around hospitality and tourism is obviously our biggest ones. Medical technology or medical services are another big industrial sector here. Transportation is obviously a big sector given MIA and the airports. But if you really look at the other sectors that support us, we're down to financial services given the banking houses, and then we're pretty thin. Most cities run with 2 to 3 industrial sectors. Really vibrant economies tend to have more. So that if you look at the Bay Area in San Francisco or you look at Los Angeles, the Bay Area has something like 6, LA has something like 10. So when you look at these you want a diverse industrial sector that can support when things are down and things are up. It's very hard for us as a city trapped between the ocean and the Everglades. You know, what kinds of industrial sectors can we put here? Manufacturing is clearly not going to work. Oil refining and that sort of thing clearly wouldn't work. So we have to look at what are the things we produce, and we produce brains, we produce manpower. So can we do things around the institutions that make up our educational system, Miami-Dade beginning that process, but also going up to FIU and UM.
Right.
And what kinds of intellectual property can we turn into viable companies that will create jobs for the area?
So it sounds like, given you mentioned biomedical and the environmental industries, you're looking at more new age type of industries to hopefully leapfrog Miami into
give
more
us
sustainable
at least
economic
more
development.
Sustainable, yeah.
Sure.
Big problem for us.
Well, I think one of the questions that many of our viewers might have is, how can I be an entrepreneur?
Well, there was a survey not too many years ago that said 75% of the country wanted to be their own boss. But only about 7 to 13% on average are actually take the leap to starting a business or starting a company. Just recently, as I said, we brought in Paul Reynolds, and Paul runs has run large numbers of studies for how people start companies, and he estimated that at any one time there are 460 million people in the world trying to start companies.
That's a big number.
It's an enormous number.
460 million
people. That's more than the population of North America. Trying to start companies. It's probably the single most important economic phenomena going on, and very little understood about it. In Miami, we think it's very important because this city is nothing, if you really think about it, is nothing but small and medium-sized businesses. Even our large corporations are still family-owned. If you look at Carnival, if you look at IVAX, you go through the long list, the Farm Med Group with the DeCespedes brothers. This is a city made up of family businesses. This is a community that, 35, 40 years ago was literally still a resort town that disappeared about 6 months out of the year. Today, it's very much a vibrant economic center for Latin America. It's certainly the bridge between Europe and Latin America. And I think Kaufman very much saw us as that kind of bridge to bring that kind of message out. So
absolutely, but I think the real question is, how can entrepreneurship be taught?
Well, I get asked this question all the time, and I think the notion is, do I want to have a brain surgeon who, happens to figure out how to do it, or do I want to have a brain surgeon who's been taught? Entrepreneurship can be taught. I can't teach you the desire to do it.
The drive.
The drive. I mean, but we do know that about 17, 18% of the population have the drive to do anything. I mean, they can be good lawyers, they can be good doctors, they can be good entrepreneurs. And I did those studies many, many years ago that shows the personality characteristics are fundamentally the same. It's, do you want to take the risk? Do you want to have that happen? And we know
do you want to take control?
And do you want to take control? But there's also a lot of responsibility. I mean, we do know, for example, that the biggest driver for men in the United States is losing your job. For women, it's getting a divorce. That's kind of a necessity, entrepreneurship. But there's still people who see opportunities and say, I want to do that. Why can't we have this? And those 7-10% of the population are what give us our high-growth companies. So,
no, I can understand that. It sounds like, the philosophy, and correct me if I'm wrong, at FIU is that entrepreneurship can apply to not just to business, but to many facets of one's life. You mentioned nonprofits, family-owned businesses, and in some of the conversations I've had with other entrepreneurs, people look at entrepreneurship